Hello and welcome back to Tay Radio Marin. I am your host, Javier Vicuna, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Santi Hernandez.
And we also have Devin Fromer here, a local Bay Area writer and director. We've had him on the show before, and we're really excited to have you back on the show, Devin. Thanks for being with us today. And yeah, it's been a real long time, guys. I know Tay hasn't been... we haven't had a show since November. I was just looking at our archives, and well, just to be transparent with everyone, we've been having some issues with our funding. And as you know, a lot of what Tay was built on was from grants and funding that we get here at the Multicultural Center of Marin, since we are a nonprofit. But I do want to mention to everyone that we are always looking for private donors, always looking for people to donate money to keep this show going, because ultimately all the money that we receive goes back to the equipment, to the just to keep the studio running. So I just really want to be transparent about that. But thank you to everyone for the support over the year, and we're ready to just keep the show sustainable right now. And what better way to kick it off with having Devin on the show back?
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back, you guys.
Yeah,
we missed our favorite host.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome
thank
back.
you.
Yeah.
Well, we're really, really excited to go into the topic of just knowing where you're at right now. You just finished up a new film. Just really looking forward to catch up with everyone. So with that said, I guess I want to start off with Santi. It's been a while since we've both been doing this show. How are you? What's been new with Santi? How has this new year been treating you?
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm so happy we
Happy
get
New
to
Year.
have our first show back of 2025.
Crazy.
With Devin. And
Crazy.
I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about. But just jumping on what Javier mentioned in the beginning, the reason why we've been away is due to funding reasons. As you guys... those who don't know, we are a nonprofit, so we survive based on donations and government funding. However, in California, there's so many nonprofits and it's very, very competitive, and we can talk, I think we're going to talk about this later on in the show, but when it comes to art in video or audio type, it's a lot harder to get funding. Mm-hmm. And it surprises me because we're in an area where we have a lot of film related things, and it's unfortunate at the same time. So if you are not able to donate, send it to someone who you know that might be able to support us in multiple ways or different ways. But with that, I've been really, really great. I ended 2024 with a good ending. Despite us cutting back on our funding, Tay has grown so much in 2024. It grew so much, and we had so many awesome opportunities that it's good to be back. It's good to be back here. I was away in South Korea for a little bit.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, and then came back. But, I'm excited that we're here to learn more about what you've been doing. But yeah, what about you, Javi?
Well, thanks for sharing that, Santi, and especially about the funding. To make it also clear, if you're interested in supporting us directly, we have our donation page on the multiculturalmarin.org website. So I just wanted to mention that as well. But I also traveled at the end of 2024. I went to Mexico, my third time being in Mexico, and I was just so grateful to be there and be able to reconnect with my family. I'm a very family-oriented person, so being able to be there really helped just kind of level myself out, because like we've said on the show for a while now, Marin County is a bubble, and it's really good to get out of this bubble and really just explore other places. And also, I was also in LA quite a few times last year too, and that also helped me again, also understand wow, there's so much more to California than just the Bay Area. But yeah, I just want to mention that, and I'll talk about this even later, but I was also helping out with Devin's film's soundtrack while I was in Mexico,
and the audio mix too.
So it's been a really cool. It was a really cool way to end the year. But Devin, talk to us. So how have you been? What's been new? I know we got a lot to talk about, but I'll let you just go ahead.
Well, it's 2025, which is crazy. It's weird. I started filming the movie I just finished. We started filming it August of 2023. And there's a weird thing, like when you're working on a project, even if it's like a month, 6 months and this is, a year and a half, it kind of doesn't feel like it didn't feel like 2023 transition to 2024 and then now we're in 2025. It kind of just felt like the time period I was working on the movie. And I finished it on New Year's Eve as far as like the first cut, the editing process and everything. So it was like, I literally like was doing countdown to New Year, like an hour after, we finished the movie. So that was like a weird sort of like, oh, we're back to kind of time and reality and all that stuff. Cause you're kind of like, say in a bubble, you're in the bubble of just, in the mindset of just working on the project. And it doesn't really feel like, the time is going. So I'm doing good though. The world's a crazy place right now. And I'm someone who kind of has to channel all that weirdness and, fear, anger, whatever towards the world, just into my art and into people I love and just, surrounding yourself with a good circle. I mean, me and you said you've helped on the movie. Me and you have gotten so much closer in 2024. I can say you're a homie now instead of just a peer. And, so I'm really looking forward to 2025. And we started off on such a high note, with finishing the movie and, we're doing the festival. We'll get into that, but just looking forward to 2025, because.
Very well said, Devin. I agree. I think I really like what you said about high note. That's actually a big theme I have for this year is ending things on a high note. Yeah. Moving forward, because I think I've just been working a lot on myself, on my mental health, as well as my career moving forward. With not just Tay, but also just continuing to improve my audio skills, my video skills. And I'm really happy that I was able to do that with you, especially with your new film that you just finished, because to me, I just always want to keep building on my skills and really understanding, like, look, I'm capable of doing this, and I'm capable of doing this at a high level. Like, I'm really at that point where I'm like, I want to, like, I consider myself a professional, but I want to be even more, like, Hollywood level professional. Like, that there's always room for improvement on stuff like that.
Well, it's nice, because you're like, I'm a professional, but you still have the mindset of I'm always kind of a student. You always there's always someone who has more experience, always someone who knows what they're doing more. You know what I mean? So, it's good that you have that mindset of like, for me, I'm like, I learn something new every day. I'm like, I just finished a movie and I'm still like, what can I do on the next production? You know what I mean? You feel me? So it's like, it's good that you kind of have that mindset of always getting better, because even if you feel like you know everything, you don't, and it's important to always remember that. So it's a good mindset to have.
Santi, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I love we've had you on the show, you and Miguel and Jesse, Jesse's not here today.
Yeah.
But
he's at home though, he's watching. Hi, Jesse.
Shout out to Jesse.
I think you guys are very good examples of what the definition of practice makes perfect. I don't think anything's going to be perfect, but you guys continue to elevate each time. And because of that mindset of you're learning every single time. And you always have to be proud of what you did and what you've accomplished, whether it's a film or any other project. But at the same time, there's so much you learn and take into creating other projects. So I love the fact that you guys are bringing that into the conversation, because you are an example of what that looks like.
Yeah. I always have this quote in my wallet, and I think I probably look at it every day just because I'm always in like a creative headspace. It's perfect is the, I think I said this on our very first interview too. The perfect is the enemy of good. And there's such a, as an artist, because if you care about what you're putting out, you always kind of want it to be like, oh, it has to be this way. It has to be, the best thing possible. And there's limits based on resources, but still if you really care about what you're doing, sometimes you don't even see the limits that you have, and you just are only focused on like, this has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. And then, but what that perfect doesn't exist in art, because the whole point of art is that, someone could watch The Godfather and be like, it's the worst movie ever. They're not wrong. It's their opinion. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when you kind of like take yourself out of it and add some self-awareness and like, like it's funny you say practice makes perfect. I'm like, practice plus, it's like an equation. Practice plus failure equals a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like that's like the better way to say practice makes perfect. So
perfect. I don't think anything is perfect. Because of that, and especially in art. And we had this when we got to watch your film. Yeah. Can I bring it in? And when Javier,
let's first start. What's the name of your new movie?
So it's called. Sure, if I can say it. That's
You guys watched it on the low because it has to be keeping on low because we're starting the festival run. But it's called I Happy I Love Her. It's my second feature film I wrote and directed, and it's our fifth feature film that we've produced, me and my little crew, Jesse, Miguel, in 4 years. So yeah, it's called I Happy I Love Her, and yeah, so they got to see it on the low.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to watch it, and bringing it into what you were mentioning, we had different perspectives, and Neftali also got to watch it with me, and we were. I love that's what makes art beautiful, is that everyone
Interprets it
yeah,
differently.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's that's just art.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that aspect too, especially when you're the creator of the art. I think again, it's like, it's just maybe it's ingrained in artists, because if you really care, it's like you're naturally like worried about what other people are going to think about it. But for me, I actually like the fact that you watched it. Now you have a different life experience than Javi, and Javi has a different life experience than you. So obviously you're going to take something, even if both of you guys loved it or both of you guys hated it, you're still going to have different opinions on it, because you're living, you're basing your opinions off of your
Our
life
life
experience,
experiences,
your your ups, your downs, whatever. Especially with what the movie is too. We're not going to get too into it, but the movie is also a movie that does, sprawl across a lot of themes. And I imagine, certain people have taken away certain things, then you took something else, you know what I mean? So, I like that art can be sort of taken, anyone can take it whichever way, you know what I mean? You could watch something and be like, oh, this made me think of my passed away grandfather, and then someone else can be like, I was thinking of clouds watching that, you know what I mean? So it's like, I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and so talking about your film, so Bus 233 was your last film that you had created, which came out 2022, I think, right?
2022, yeah, wow.
So
It was released on YouTube in 2023, because we'd done it played in theaters for a while, but yeah, it officially dropped in 2022, yeah.
So let's talk about kind of, so when did you start the process of making your new film?
Yeah. So after Bus 233, I was like, I'm just going to jump into other projects. We were filming a movie that I co-wrote with Miguel. We were always doing something. And I had a few projects that I was filming that, fell through. Equipment got robbed out of my car, a lot of different setbacks, right? And as the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, my dad's cancer was coming back and becoming more like, rampant and whatever.
Yeah.
He was just getting more sick. So I was trying to finish these projects. And the good thing about having Miguel as a peer and a, partner is that when you're not working on something, he's always working on something. So, we had just finished filming Streets, then we started How to Save the World like a few months later. So we were always doing stuff, and I was trying to do stuff, but distractions with your dad's health. There was a new baby at the house that was only not even a year old yet. So
Life happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was working on another project, and someone broke into my car, stole all of our equipment. Yes. And it was, so early in the project that it wasn't like, oh, I have some footage that I can salvage. It was like, I didn't even have enough to make like a 5-minute short. So I just canceled that project. But again, you move on, life happens, stuff sucks. And then my dad passed away, technically July 1st. And that's a whole ball, that's a whole thing. And I always have to take some sort of I always channel my life experiences into my art, as I said. And so I started writing it. The original script of this film that we just finished, I started writing it a week after he died, essentially, and I wrote it in that second week after he died. I've never written anything that fast before. I just, sat down and just got the whole idea out, which was like a really weird feeling, because it was almost like vomiting. Like it was like I was vomiting these emotions into, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I imagine what it's like when you're a painter in a non-pretentious way. You're just like throwing paint at a canvas and not really just letting your emotions kind of take over. So I wrote it in a week, started pre-pro in August, and I felt very alone at that time, because I was kind of just like, usually I would be like, oh, here's the script, Miguel, or here's whatever. I was kind of just like doing the script by myself and not really,
your life changed completely.
Well, of course, yeah, it was a big shift,
Your headspace was, I felt, obviously he's going to fall into a very
exactly,
place,
And it was kind of just like, at the time, I wasn't even like, I guess I was grieving, but I wasn't like letting anything slow me down, because I guess I was just like using the art as a way to like, just channel, and I wasn't really thinking about anything.
Right. So
we started filming in August of 2023, and then that first version kind of petered out towards the end of 2023 with just, dealing with family stuff, and I kind of realized I wasn't happy with the script, and then it wasn't until the end of 2023 where just being honest, I reconnected with my girlfriend, who's my partner now, and she kind of made me inspired to really finish this idea, because she had some losses in her family, and we didn't know that she was going to have a loss within another month of when we started dating, but so I was kind of using like her, just care for me and her being with me as like a way to just start the project again. And then I started writing, and I was doing rewrites, and we were filming the whole time. So I have footage from, like I said, August 2023 all the way to the last thing we filmed was December 2024. So, basically a year and a half of filming, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. A week of writing, a year and a half of filming, but yeah.
Wow, Devin. Yeah. Well, first of all, I apologize for your losses that you took, and also your partner's losses. I think it's really interesting too, just to hear your perspective on stuff, because as someone who has also lost a family member, art has just helped me immensely in the healing process of that.
Yeah.
And it's great to see that even though you experienced such a huge loss, you were able to still continue to produce and write and film this film that you've been filming for so long.
Yeah.
And something I do want to share, and just on the topic of it is, when I went to go watch Bus 233, I watched it in theaters.
Yeah.
And I had a very quick conversation with your dad when I was there, and he just, I hadn't met him before. That was the time the first time meeting him. He was just very grateful that I was there to come and support your film.
Yeah.
He seemed, obviously he looked like a really great guy. I never really got to meet him in person. I'm just saying that to me that also left like an impression on me, like just the fact that he came up to me after the movie and was like, "Hey, thank you for watching my son's film."
He was like PR and my agent and my manager. It was insane. Like, so the movie started playing. So after we did the very first like cast crew family show that was just for free, and then the general manager at the theater approached me and was like, "There's people asking about it on Nextdoor and in the community and stuff." So he was like, "Can we just play it as a regular movie?" And I'm just turned 19, and I'm like, yes, please. This movie I've been writing since I was in 8th grade. Yes. And my dad had already seen it at the first show, but this fool went to every single showing of the movie, paid $11 every time. And I was like, Dad, you could just give me $11. I get 50% of the profit. You could just give me the full profit. And he was like, and he just went to every show. I didn't even go to every show. So, and after every show, he was doing like his own, like, how you like interviewed someone. I saw you guys interviewing people on Mill Valley Film Festival. That was him. He was like interviewing people, and he would like tell me their opinions and stuff. So it was really cool to have like my own like
really
manager,
sweet.
PR,
really,
agent,
really
promotion. You know what I mean? He was gathering reviews, sending them to me. Like he was very, very happy with the first movie, especially because I had been working on it for so long, and he had really seen it like break me down, bring me up, breaking me down, whatever. So, yeah.
Man, this is a bit of a heavy topic when it comes to grief and losing loved ones. I don't think we'd ever know what you went through. I think losing a father is, I mean, I can't imagine what that would mean. And, cancer sucks, man.
Oh my gosh.
I also lost a cousin because of cancer.
I'm sorry.
But I think that's, grief can look very, very different for everyone. And unfortunately, some people, grief takes them down with them. And that is...
Yeah, they let grief consume them.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that side of the coin.
But there is also that light of grief being one of your biggest inspirations. Because you're going through a lot of emotions. And when you lose someone, there's I understand, I don't understand why, what for, and there's multiple thoughts that go on. And then there's that window where you can take everything you're feeling and put it in a different medium, right? So that painting, art, and there's that film part. And I think one of my favorite stories come from experiences, people. I think it's the human connection that I look for of maybe I don't resonate with you 100%, but as a human, I can put myself in your shoes and I can visualize this. And so this film was very personal. I felt that right away from the start and very emotional at times. And that's what made it and I told Javi this, I really like this film.
Thank you so much. You're talking about, just to clarify, you're talking about not Bus, right? You're talking about the new one, right?
Yeah,
okay, got it.
And it felt it felt so personal.
Thank you.
And that I feel like I felt that love and mixed feeling of love and hate with losing someone. There are moments where I'm like, oh, this feels right. There are moments where I'm like, I can see the anger.
Yeah.
So I think you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
And again, I don't think we could ever understand what you and your family went through and are still continuing to go through. But wherever your father is, I know he'll be very, very proud of the film you did, that he inspired.
Yeah, no, I think that's, you just hit the nail on the head exactly, of like, I think that's why I grew up in a family of musicians. So my dad was a musician, my grandpa, my uncle, they, albums, did a lot of music for unions, a lot of civil rights music. And so I grew up in a family of musicians. And when you're a Fromer, people go, oh, you play instruments, right? And I think, so that kind of made me like want to fall in love with movies. But I think the real reason why I fell in love with movies is just exactly what you're saying. Like, I mean, Roger Ebert, who's one of my favorite people ever, he has a famous quote where he says, movies are a machine that generates empathy. And I think that's such a real thing, because, even though we're all different, we all have different experiences, there is certain, inherent things that do make us all human. You know what I mean? Like different things that are in all of us. Like I think storytelling is something that is ingrained in us. I think imagination and curiosity are all things that are ingrained with us. And I think the reason why I love film so much is what you're saying, where it's like, it's the best, it's the only art form to me that really allows another person to be another experience, if that makes sense. Like you can listen to an album about someone breaking up and you haven't experienced a breakup, but it doesn't really open your world to that. I feel like movies, because they utilize music, audio, visual,
all sorts,
color. We said this last time, utilizes everything. And I
Yeah.
remember the first foreign film I ever watched, it was called Children of Heaven. It was an Iranian film, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw it when my dad showed it to me when I was like 7 or 8, as soon as I could like read subtitles. And it's about these little kids, and one, like the main boy, he's trying to run a race, and he bets his sister new shoes, and they're poor, so they can't afford shoes. And I was like, so I watched it, loved it, and I'm 8 years old, little black and Jewish kid from California, not poor, not rich at the time, or anything, not just normal, like middle class experience. And I was watching this and I was like, oh, so other kids have different experiences. This is what it's like. It was the first time where I felt outside of myself, and not in like an out of body spiritual way, but more like we are on a planet where there are people that are different, and there are people that not better or worse. And I think film is to me the best art form to show those kind of things, to show empathy for different people, empathy for different experiences. Like I always say, like people are always like, how can we like stop racism or stop, all these things? And obviously there's a lot deeper ways you can fix these issues that are very internal and systemic. But I'm always like, the things that have shown me what it's like to be a certain minority group, or to have a really negative experience, are films. You know what I mean? Because you see it, you hear it, you feel it. And I love films that way. And I put all the personal stuff that I had through, my dad into that movie. And it's, just makes me very happy that my pain that I put into that, and happiness and joy and missing and all that stuff, you felt that. So it means that the film succeeded in any way for me, because that's what film does the best, in my opinion. So.
And that, very well said, Devin. I think also one thing that stuck out to me in our conversations, because I did help you out with
Yes.
filming and also the musical score along
Killed
with
it, by the
Miguel.
way. You killed it, dude.
Yeah, and we could talk about that in just a bit, but
Yeah.
I do just want to mention that I think what you made me realize about film, especially with the process of this movie and how it all just kind of came together, was that there's nothing wrong with like taking influence from all sorts of. I think that's the thing about film, is like you're able to just get influence from everything, like music itself, even though it's not even though music itself isn't like a film.
It isn't a visual movie.
It's not a visual movie. You can still, like, when I listen to music, I visualize in my head things when I listen to music, right? And also the same thing with like visual art, right? So it's not necessarily a film, but it's art. When I look at it, I imagine that art almost moving in my head, right? I don't know if you guys have looked at visual art like that too. Yeah. Also with color, color to me is so important as well. Like certain colors to me, I can just see them and be like, yeah, that color gives me this feeling, and this color gave me that feeling. And just, again, being able to use a film to like express all of these different ways that you yourself can interpret art is super cool, and it's something that I really saw translate really well into your new film. And
that's the weird thing about film too. It's like, you know, it's weird that you're like, you know, all of these personal things that I was trying to express as the writer director, and I'm a writer director. I can't really see. I don't think I'm a talented enough filmmaker to translate someone else's script. I only can kind of see myself writing my own script, and that's fine. But it is weird to say, like, you know, I'm putting my experiences, my pain. Obviously, I'm taking other stories and, you know, all of these other people. But the interesting thing about film, especially if you're a writer director like myself, is that you write this script that's your vision, your feelings, your emotions, your view of everything, and you get other talented and capable and loving people to work with you on it. Film is like one of the it's probably the most collaborative art form.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
Like if you play
agree.
guitar and you want to make a song, you just are by yourself. If you want to paint, I could paint on that wall right now, and I don't need either of you guys' help. I just need paint. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I love that aspect of it. It feels, again, when I'm on set, I feel the most human. I feel the most present for me personally, because I'm using my stuff to work with other people. You know, when I'm in the booth with you audio mixing on a movie that I wrote for a year or whatever, and I'm like seeing your experiences, your laughing, your reactions, your opinions about what I'm doing, you know what I mean? You're taking your experience. I love that. It makes me feel the most like in tune with everything. It makes me feel like, oh, we're all human, we're all the same, we're all whatever. And I really like that aspect, because there's no other art form that I can think of that's as collaborative as film. You know what I mean? You know, because even dancing, you know, the big dance numbers, even that you can just pop and lock, you know, in the shower. You know what I mean? So, you know, I love that aspect about film, that it's so collaborative and it's so working together, and it's not this like, I'm you know, there's plenty of self-imposed artists who do film, but I always welcome opinions and I always welcome different experiences, and I love being able to have other people translate my art, especially because I can't do everything. You know, I don't know how to audio mix like you. You just helped me. I gave my opinions, but you know, I can't do everything. So.
And it's interesting too, because Santi and I last year we participated in the Mill Valley Film Festival. That was one of the last things we did with Tay in that year. And one thing that, again, what you were going off of what you've been saying, one thing that we realized and we saw is that these films have huge teams behind them.
Dude.
There's so many people behind these films, right? So it's like, yes, like the way we were able to, like, for example, for Emilia Perez, one of the films that we were able to watch, one of the first to watch that movie, and it's been really hot topic right now.
Oh my god! All of a sudden, like,
everyone's talking about that movie.
So the Golden Globes like lit it up. I would love to actually hear your opinion on it too. Just we, you know, just brief, but I know you saw it very early.
Well, the thing about that movie is that it has, again, going back to that conversation about film takes inspiration, like you can take inspiration from everything. This film was directed by a French director. It takes place in Mexico.
Yes.
And
they go to Hong Kong, or they go to like they go all around,
all over the world. But it's mainly takes place in Mexico. Yeah. And also the actors, they're all from different, like, super different backgrounds.
Yeah,
right.
I think Sophia's from somewhere in Spain.
Right? Yeah. And then Zoe, I think she has some Dominican.
She's
but grew up in Mexico.
And Selena's half Mexican, right?
And Selena Gomez is
Mexican American.
American.
Adriana is Mexican.
Yeah, Mexican, right? So, who we were just naming are just some of the actresses that were in the movie, and we were able to interview them, all of them actually during the film festival.
Awesome.
And one thing that that they were talking about was like that aspect, like the director was able to bring in all these people from all these different backgrounds, all these different influences, and some of them also, it was their first time doing like choreography that way, because that movie's a musical as well. That's the other thing. It's a musical.
Yeah.
So they had to bring in like choreographers and songwriters, and it's just a whole accumulation of like, you can't do that by yourself.
No, you can't.
Cannot do that by yourself. So again, the director's only one part of the movie, and I think some people get that a little confused sometimes because they think the director does everything. Yeah. But no, it's a whole film has so much components to it.
I think of it as like a pirate ship of like, there's the captain of the ship, but the captain is not climbing up the sails, dropping the bear, whatever. It's like you can't sail a pirate ship without your crew. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if you're, Jack Sparrow, you can't, you have to have the squad. You know what I mean? And I think, like, it's so funny. I've heard people, you watch a Marvel movie and those movies have huge crews. You know what I mean? And you watch the credits and you're just like white names on black screen for like 8 hours. And the funny thing is, for people who don't know, aren't involved in any sort of film, like I sit there and watch, I'm like, wow, each one of these people put something of themselves into this film. Hopefully, I'm sure, big corporations like Disney don't allow all of them to feel like they did something, but to some extent, like a lot of big directors have talked about how they want every person, even the caterers, to feel like there's some sort of ownership on the film. And I love that aspect of like, that was really cool working with Jesse so much, to kind of bring it back to this film. Like Jesse, he had been an actor in our stuff before, and particularly Miguel's stuff, and then he helped out on the producing side of Boys, and I really like brought him to the forefront as the executive producer with me on this specific project, because that, all three of us, we do something sometimes, some things the other time, and because Jesse really stepped up, it was really cool to see him experience that sense of ownership. I mean, he's gonna be, maybe he'll be mad that I'm saying this, but like Jesse's been doing YouTube videos since he was a little kid. Like he always has had that artistic filmmaking side, I'll try to convince him to post them, but and it's really cool to like see that spark ignite again, because of for a lot of people, film is a hard thing to do, or you can't really even see the end goal of that or any sort of art. So it's really cool to, like you're saying, like work together on something, but to see that spark reignite in him that he had when he was 12, of like the excitement of being an artist and producing a film, and I really was like, yeah, this is my vision, but it's our film. You know what I mean? The same way that I said that to my actors, I said that to you, I said that to you. You just did the audio mix and the soundtrack, not just as in like you didn't do anything, but I mean like you didn't write it or direct it, but
I'd still contribute to the
contributed
film.
To the film. It would not exist in the way that it does without you existing and being alive.
And that's the beauty. Yeah, that really hits it all together. That's the beautiful part about film. I love it. Literally everyone in the credits that you see at the end of the
That's a real
film,
person. Yeah.
Every single one of those person, without that specific person, the film would not be the same.
Exactly.
By that one person.
Yeah. That's what's crazy. It's like, because you're seeing the final product of a lot of hard work. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's like when you see an album that's like one person's album, like, it's a solo artist, but then you see like the actual album credits on the vinyl, and you're like, oh my God, the string section of this one song, like a Tyler song, you see Tyler's string section and it's like 14 people. He composed it himself, but you see the string section, it's like, holy crap.
You know what I mean? Like,
himself. Exactly. Right? Yeah. So I love that aspect. You can see that stuff in albums too, but I think that's the reason why I love film so much, is how much it's like a group effort. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because we're all trying to get through this life together. We don't know anything. We're trying to figure everything out. Everything's scary. Everything's weird. Everything's wild. So, coming together to be like, let's get through this. Let's, yeah, I like that part of it.
I have a question regarding, because this film is a little bit different than what I've watched with Miguel.
Yeah.
How was your experience directing a story that is based on something so personal? Did you have hard times during filming? How did your team or the team react to that? Because I mean, I've had to work on projects, and I can explain one. We for our video business that we have, we edited and filmed Day of the Dead, and it's literally just a montage of recap of everything. But there were multiple times where I would tear up because I hear the song and I'm watching something, and I lost a few family members during the pandemic. And, it was really hard. And I think Neftali had a hard time sometimes understanding. And I think I freaked him out a couple times because I would randomly just get so emotional about something, like cry or just get in this different bubble.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why that question comes up.
Yeah,
for me,
it's a good question, because for me, it's interesting. Like, those moments do happen for me. But if those moments happen for me, they happen in the writing process and in the editing process. Because the important thing to remember, even though it is a group effort, and I said the pirate ship analogy, I am the leader of the ship. So I can't, as much as I'm like on set and I'm looking at someone, there's like lines in there that I wrote that my dad said, and I have to hear someone say, and but on set I have to have, not that if I start crying they're gonna be like, oh, look at this guy, but you're there trying to get through the day, you're there trying to get this scene done,
and that's being professional. Like
I mean, you have to, again, you're the leader of the ship. If if again, using the pirate ship analogy, if you're a crewman and you look up at the captain and he's seasick, aren't you gonna be like, why am I following this dude into like the Bermuda Triangle? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it was interesting for me, like those moments happen more so actually in the editing, because you kind of get the excitement. For me, at least, the excitement has kind of gone away, because it's like when you hear a joke, like let's say I tell you a joke, but I tell you it 16 times, it's not funny anymore. After the third time, you're like, I laughed the first 2 times really hard, and by the 10th time, you're like, Devin, I want to kill you. Like, like, you know what I mean? And so, you know, imagine you're saying, you know, you heard those songs that you started crying. Imagine having to hear those songs 10 times, you cry all 10 times, and then on the 20th time, you're starting to wonder if your emotion is even real, because you're like, what is this anymore? You know what I mean? It doesn't even feel like a joke. It doesn't even feel like a moment. It doesn't even feel like a. So it's interesting. Like during filming, I had to kind of keep my, you know, not professionalism, I guess, but also just keep steering the ship forward. But I also think you're saying like, what is it like working on something so personal? And I think, you know, because this movie is inspired by, you know, the grieving of my dad, it's like, it's easy for me to kind of, and it was such like a, you know, sprawling project for me, you know, especially when you watch it, you'll see why. But I sometimes, it makes me forget that, like, no, Bus 2 is also from such a deep, I mean, you've seen it, Bus is from such a deeply personal place. I mean, it was 5 years of my life of channeling my biracial identity issues that I had never seen on film before into a movie. And you watch that movie, and you know, I had people who were like 60 years old and biracial who grew up in, you know, in the 70s or the 60s talking about, oh, I felt the exact same way. So that movie was deeply personal too. And I find, you know, I told you about those projects that kind of fell apart after Bus, aside from the one that got, you know, my camera got stolen. It was interesting. Like, I find the only way that I can get through a script and start filming or get through a project is if it has to be a question that I ask myself. Because we ask questions about the world all the time. And, you know, like with Bus, the question was, what is it, if I had to explain to someone in a film form what it was like to be biracial, what would I do? And for this movie, it was like, if I have to explain to someone not only the meaning of life, it's like the movie that you guys saw is like, I was trying to explain the meaning of life to someone who's drunk. But also how weird the world feels when you're grieving someone, and you're talking about, you know, all of a sudden you start crying, and it's like, you know, you'll be so happy a day, and you'll be thinking about all the good memories with a person, and then just the same way that depression or anxiety, these things just come out of nowhere, and there's no rhyme or reason a lot of the time for these actual, you know, mental things that happen. A lot of like grieving it's just so sudden. You're like, oh, I was just, you know, happy for a second, and I'm thinking about like how much I miss this person or whatever. So, you know, that thing that was always there. Kind of, sorry, I kind of go off the rails a little bit, but
no, you're good.
But to kind of answer your question, like that stuff is always there, but because I'm the director and I kind of have to lead the ship, I have to kind of be able to handle it in the middle part. And then, you know, it's my job to kind of do the thing where it's like, I got to get through the day. I'm going to cry at home. You know what I mean? I kind of have to, because I'm leading the ship.
Right.
But in the editing process, when I'm hearing a line that my dad said 5 times, it gets harder for me to be like, you know, I'm my own editor too, which I don't want to do anymore for that reason, because every film I do is so deeply personal. It's kind of hard for me to do that editing process to even see the good in it anymore. Yeah. And I had my amazing cousin, Matt Larson, sorry. He edited some scenes. He's also in the movie. I'm not going to say what, but he edited some scenes, and it was really cool because that kind of like I keep going back to a pirate ship, put wind in my sails a little bit, because I got to see my jokes that I had heard 50 times that I was like, these aren't funny, or I got to hear like a metaphor from his point of view. And that like reignited. I was like, oh my gosh, the movie's here again. Like there's, you know, so that was really cool. Again, collaboration, you know what I mean? So
right.
How do you handle situations like that when you're editing and something becomes a little bit boring, or it doesn't work for you anymore, and you don't change the script, or because I've heard you and Miguel talk about changing the script when you guys are filming. Does that also come because you're watching it for so many times and you're like, I don't think that works anymore? Yeah. But if I were to watch it for the first time, it works. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
I think the way I deal with it is the same way that I do, you know, if I've had a lot of problems with anxiety and you don't feel like grounded, you have to kind of ground yourself again. And the way I remember those kind of things is I go back to the point I was when I wrote it. Wrote that joke. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at this thing and you're like, oh my God, this is boring. This like long conversation is boring. But then I go back, I have to take myself out of myself and put myself back to that moment I was when I wrote it. And then I'm like, there's an intention behind this, and you clearly did this for a reason. You know what I mean? It came out for, and it was interesting too because Bus. This was a little bit of a different process. Usually, I know it kind of got confusing because Miguel was writing as we went along. For me, and you know, because we work on such an indie level, there's stuff that happens, there's casting that falls through, there's always going to be sort of rewrites, you know. But I think for Bus, it was a finished script, and I cut some stuff out just for the sake of pacing, but it was still This one I've been rewriting the whole time because grief is dealing with it the whole time.
Yeah,
you know, you're feeling good for a month, and then you feel like terrible for a month. So that was a really interesting process of what you're saying of like, God, this is boring. Or the question is this even good anymore? And you know, Jesse's like, Devin, this is amazing. Like this is great. Like we've worked hard on this. Like this is really good. And you just don't believe him. You're like, no, you're lying to me.
But that's why you need to listen to those perspectives.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and listen to them, but also, like I said, listen to them, but also listen to yourself. Because again, you did it for a reason. Right. You didn't just write it because you just were like, I want to, you know, I'm speaking again solely for myself. I'm sure there's plenty of movies that people just write stuff for the sake of writing it that way. But I was, you know, every line for me in this movie, you saw how purposeful a lot of the decisions were. And not in a pretentious way, but every line kind of had a purpose. Every line was from something. Every conversation was, again, especially considering the structure of the movie, that was very different for probably what you've seen before. Every line was kind of like purposeful. Every scene was very purposeful. So that was hard because it's a movie full of those scenes. It's not really, you know, it's those little fragments kind of thing. It was even harder because everything was so short that I was like, it's like watching the same short film festival over and over again, and you're watching the same 10 shorts over and over again. And I was just like, oh my God, this is, you know, so it's just, you kind of got to keep pushing through those moments because there's always those dips. You know what I mean? It's like if you're filming, you have something scheduled and it rains, you know, we don't have a budget to put a cover or anything. What are you going to do? Just like give up on the movie because you missed one day? No, you got to keep, you know what I mean? So you got to, again, utilize your crew, utilize different opinions, utilize those kind of things. So yeah, that was definitely hard for this movie because we were filming it for so long, and I was constantly changing the script, which I never do on my movie specifically. So there was definitely a different process that I had to deal with. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Devin. One thing I wanted to kind of go back on, just kind of bringing everything together here, is going back to that idea of like this film helped spark so many people on the team, right?
Yeah.
So help spark, like you were saying, Jesse's creative process and being able to, like, you know, color grade and be able to film and contribute so much and
be in it too. Like
be in it,
he stepped his acting game up like just as far as like putting himself out there and like, you know, not playing a version of himself like we all have a lot in the past, you know. So it was really cool to see that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And for me, it was huge. I was really, really grateful to be part of the film in terms of the music because I've always wanted to do a soundtrack for a movie, and being able to work with Miguel too, and you know, have Miguel and I just work on the music was awesome. Like that to me was so inspirational. And sorry, I need a cough real quick, but here, just step in real fast. Sorry.
I asked about like the editing and stuff because again, I edit a lot of the work that I do, and I'm also into photography and like photography. I've seen these like on TikTok and Instagram, like kind of like jokes about a photographer can literally play a whole song to the end and go to the next, but as a
oh yeah, that's
as a
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
the editor, you have one song and you're like going back every second and second, and it's fun, but also it can get annoying in your head. Like I don't want to hear that anymore. The other thing that I was gonna ask is you saw me kind of going back and reviewing a little bit the film, and you said that Jesse did a great job with the cinematography. And my question is, was Jesse? Did you tell him the shots that you wanted, or he came up with some shots? How did that work between you guys as the director and the cinematographer?
Yeah, I will say as much as I was like, oh, it's a collaborative effort, I still did like in my head, because I write so visually that I kind of, if I'm writing it, I'm seeing it. That's just how my scripts are. I've, Miguel's told me, or my cousin Matt or Isaiah has told me like, oh, you read my script and you see it. That's kind of how I write. So I kind of know what the movie's going to look like even before we get to set. And my job is basically just to translate that to Jesse. Now, people do storyboards. I suck at drawing. I don't do storyboards. Sometimes I'll look at this great website called Shot List. I'm not sponsored. I'm just saying it's a great website. So, my job is to more just translate that to Jesse, and his job is to execute on it. You know what I mean? So there was definitely like, I know what I want. I know what I want this to look like. Here's this shot, especially because there's a lot of long takes in the movie. But my main thing, I asked Jesse a lot of the time, I was like, we did this. Is there anything you want to do? Is there any like shots you want to get? Is there any coverage that we missed? Again, even though it's my vision, making it a collaborative effort, making sure that his voice is in there somewhere. And I think there was a lot of the times if you watch the movie where it's exactly what I wanted, but Jesse only enhanced it. Because again, I'm the main actor too, and I'm not behind camera, so I can't see what's I'm focused on lines. I'm focusing on my co-stars' performances. I'm not, I can't focus on, is this in focus? You know what I mean? So it was definitely like a mix of both. It was like he's doing my shot list, but he's only enhancing it because I can't do it by myself. So yeah, it was definitely like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for sharing. Sorry, I've been dealing with this really annoying cough this week.
You're good.
So,
Dry cough. Yeah.
But going back to it, yeah. Like I said, for me, the music part of it, being able to like remotely also work on the music. While
You did it in Mexico while you were on vacation. Like the dedication that you guys put in. I don't pay y'all. I mean, I'll buy you food once in a while, but like the dedication you guys put into it, like he did it, Hasanti, he did it while on vacation in Mexico with his family, and he's texting
in
me
less than a month.
In less than a month, getting back to me in time. And again, that was great about having Miguel do music too, because there's a few things that he did that you guys worked together on, but he did some separate stuff too. So it's great, So, but thank you so much, dude. Yeah,
no, and
killed it, bro.
Thank you. And one thing for the tracks that I did work on while I was in Mexico, I just remember it's just in my head I was like, wow, I'm capable of doing this. It actually it helped me step back and be like, look, I can do this.
Yeah.
This is something I'm able to do, and I can see myself improving on it in the future. Like as I was making the music, because I remember I was stuck in the Guadalajara airport, which for anyone who has to go to Mexico or has gone to Mexico City and has to do a layover in Guadalajara airport, you guys know how annoying it is to do a connection flight. But anyways, I was at least I was using that time there.
Yeah.
I was using the time that I was waiting to work on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it was just it's great that I'm able to like have my laptop and be able to produce music that's then sent to you.
Yeah.
And then
it
you get to listen to it over
yeah.
here in the States, and then finish, and then just watching it all kind of come together when I watched the film. I was like, oh my god, like all this work that I was doing over here is now translating up. Like I seeing it in practice, like on the film, I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And I won't say specifically which scenes, but I will say that there's definitely some songs on here where I think we both, me, you, and Miguel, got a little emotional while we were making it. One in particular, we won't say which one, but that
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
But that was such a magical moment because it was so awesome to see all of us be in such a creative headspace and be able to just pull it off in not a lot of time either. That was all a creation that we did with given the circumstances that we were in, and just seeing that all like work out. And like I remember the moment that like we finished the track and you put it on your software and you put it on the film, we were both like, oh my god! Like we had that huge. Oh my god! It worked. It worked.
Just
like,
you're like, whoa.
Right. But
it's like when you take a picture and then you don't get it developed for 6 months. You're like, oh, the picture still's there. Like it's still there. It still works. You know what I mean? And that's really cool. Yeah.
And that to me was the biggest highlight for me of this of working on this film. Is that, and it goes to show like. Also, just being around people that you're very comfortable with, that you work very well with. Like-minded, exactly. That's another really important thing. And I think that was what you can really see in this film is that everyone in the crew, everyone that contributed to the film, we're all very like-minded people. We're all coming from very similar backgrounds. We all kind of understand our artistic perspective.
Yes. And all have different perspectives too.
Yeah. And
just like,
Yeah, because you also often hear sometimes that a lot of film crews, they like fall flat. Like there's a lot of like
tension and
tension and creative differences.
Yeah.
And, you know, with this film, with it being such a such a personal film for you, we were all, I think, super respectful of the source material that we were given and work with.
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing that I also learned throughout the process.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to be respectful. I need to make sure that this is what Devin wants, because ultimately it is his film.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really grateful that I was able to learn.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say just quickly to back off what you to go, piggyback off what you said, going off to what you said. It's like, even though you have those moments where you look at your own thing and you're crying or whatever, like, it is my film at the end of the day, and it is my experience, it is my vision, but they're opening it up. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same way that, like, an architect designs something, but the builders are just as important because they're making that thing happen. You know what I mean? And I think it was really cool to just see that, come to fruition. And I think that was very important for me, especially because it's so personal.
Yeah, and we're way half past the show where we had to do some PSA, but I'm going to move it into.
PSA.
Yeah, go for
you
it.
guys mentioned, Javi did a lot of basically volunteered his time.
Yes.
And Jesse and Miguel.
Everybody.
And when it comes to art, man, I wish there was more support when it comes to art for artists.
Yeah.
That's something that
more funding opportunities.
Yeah.
One of the things that people have a misconception about is how expensive it is to do any type of art form. For example,
And
when it comes
time.
to even photography,
especially time,
like taking a photo and developing that takes time. And we also live in a world where we have to pay bills, and there's
Inflation,
nothing free in this world. And so when you have those people that are around you who can support you and just be there, hey, like, I have a project. Well, okay, I have this resource and skill that I can help, and you have this network of people where you're supporting one another to elevate your work, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm very happy to announce that the MCM has been given the opportunity to distribute some money that was given to MCM, and basically this is called the 2025 Arabella Grant. And this grant is for local artists. They can get a grant of up to $5,000 to create an original work over 4 months. So I'm very happy with this specific grant because last time I shared this, I don't remember if on the show or with you specifically, that there was a grant that I wanted to apply to in Marin County. However, they did not accept film or any type of video form.
So weird. Lucasfilm is right there, dude. It's so weird. Like, so, the Bay Area, to me, so I said this in the last interview, it's so, I don't mean to interrupt the PSA, but it's so, the fact that we don't have as much of an artistic industry as much as LA or New York, with how many famous artists, rappers, actors, comedians come from the Bay.
Yeah.
Like, I just, especially, and then also considering one thing that it shares with LA and New York is how diverse ethnically, economically, culturally, you know what I mean? You go to just different parts of San Francisco and you're like, there's, Chinese immigrants, then you go to, and I've always been, since I was a kid, because I've always loved the cinema, it's been so fascinating to not have those kind of things. And I remember there's been grants before where it's like, where's the film thing? George Lucas is driving past ice cream shops in San Anselmo. Where's the film grants?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just really, it always was confusing for me, especially because you only see, like, think about how many movies you see take place in LA or New York, and then you see, like, what, Blind Spotting, Last Black Man in San Francisco, only like 2 movies. Like,
Ant-Man was in San Francisco.
Ant-Man, but even then, it's like, it just shows shot of the Golden Gate Bridge and then doesn't highlight the culture or anything.
Right.
So,
it's just a
Shang-Chi, same thing, where it's like, it's always just been so interesting to me. Like Vertigo, like all these movies that take place in the Bay, but I can only name like 5 that have had a good reach that have the Bay Area culture in them. And hopefully with this awesome grant, you were telling me about it before the show, and
and so basically, I'm going to read a little bit what it says. Artists are free to choose any theme for your artwork, and it may work in any medium, including visuals, art, performance, music, or cinematic representation. And the deadline for this application is March 31st, 2025. We're going to leave the job form here
in the description of
this
video.
this video. But for those who, like you and Miguel, can apply, and for anyone at home as well who who knows someone and has a project already working, I would say please carefully read the agreement with this, because after you get accepted, you have 4 months to finish.
Hard deadline.
Yeah.
It's a hard deadline.
You guys are used to hard deadlines.
But-
Yeah, not that hard for a feature though. So maybe do some shorts or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a great. It's not a lot, but it is something.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's up to $5,000, and we encourage you all to apply, and we really want to support local artists with this grant. So.
Because this way, if we get a lot of people to sign up for this grant, it also helps us get more money in the future too for more artists. Because then they'll see like, oh, there is artists in Marin who.
Well, yeah,
are
that's the thing.
interested
There's
in
no
doing
community
this.
of artists. You know what I mean? Especially
Right.
because there's not like, you hear stories about like Brockhampton who like met on like a message board,
forums
or
and
like
stuff, yeah.
Even Odd Future, they MySpace, and it's like it's funny how the more social media, the longer it's been around and the more social media that there is, I mean, it's not funny, but the less like able we are to really utilize it locally, if that makes sense. Like how rare is it to see like, I don't see any, aside from you guys, because I've become so familiar with you guys, there's not any like local young artist events that I really see that are like promoted
mixers
in a
and stuff
cool
like
way,
that,
or like as an old person would say, a hip way, you know what I mean? And I always find that it's interesting how all of the people our age who are artists and stuff, we are all on social media. Some use it more than others. Some have more platforms than others. But why do we, like, it takes awesome people like you two who really do utilize it, who find, it wasn't that Miguel, the very first interview you guys did in 2022, it wasn't that Miguel reached out to you guys. You found him.
I think it's the other way around. If I'm correct.
It's from what I remember, Anna Lee actually.
Yeah,
one of our former
yeah.
hosts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anna Lee was one of the ones.
You
who
scared me. I
knew
thought I was
about-
about to like just say a lot.
who had mentioned Miguel to us, and
Yeah.
Anna Lee was the one who reached out. To
Is that
Miguel.
true, Miguel? Oh, by the way, big
Yeah.
shout out to Miguel.
Yeah.
Thank
who
you,
is,
camera switcher Miguel.
Yeah, Miguel's camera switching
Yeah.
for us right now.
Javi, you're looking at him. Is he nodding? Is that true?
Yes,
Did
he is
Okay,
nodding.
yeah.
It's
See,
true.
okay.
Okay.
I was right. You scared me.
Just because I had asked him about it, and he said that Miguel reached out to us. But
Yeah.
I think the second time he reached out to us.
Yeah, because we had a movie to promote. That's when we did Man
there
in
you
the
go,
Mask.
there you go.
But the point to that is like, I don't know any other place other than you guys who does stuff like that. And I think that's, there are so many kids. I went to Media Academy in Santa Fe High, and there was a few kids who are really serious about this film thing, and all of them have that like film school mentality. And I'm like, guys, we have such a cool culture, so many artists, and so many stories that can be told in the Bay. Why do you feel like you have to leave to? And everyone's wired differently, but I'm always like, there's a sort of like a tribal like nativeness I feel towards the Bay. My whole family's from San Francisco. My mom's side has 6 generations in San Francisco. Like that's, I mean, like I'm a Bay boy always. And I'm always just like, that's kind of my goal with this stuff, keep getting bigger, keep getting more budgets and stuff, but always, keeping the Bay in the forefront, and not necessarily only making movies in the Bay, but it's always a Bay home production. And that's really what I'm trying. I think that's one of the main reasons why I didn't go to film school. And I feel so lucky, and blessed to have found people like you two. And again, well, you guys found us literally, but to have found even someone like Miguel, who I met in 8th grade, like, who would have thought 2 kids who told their parents like, oh, we don't want to go to film school or whatever. Instead of going 4 years to film school, we took 4 years and we made 5 feature films. All are on YouTube. Some have 2,000 views. One of them played in theaters. We've made money off of them. We just finished. So like, in 4 years, we made 5 feature films, all with diverse casts, local productions, no budget, gunfights, car chases, like crazy stuff. And it takes people like you two who really highlight people like me and Miguel, because we just do it because we love it and want to make it a career. But you guys highlight people like us because you guys care about things like the community. And I've sung your guys' praises many times, but I'm just doing it again because it's your first show. It's your first show back.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but it's so cool, especially with the grant now. Hopefully, people.
Yeah, and which is why kind of again we mentioned at the beginning of the show that we have taken some time off because and even I don't think we've officially said it, but Kimberly is no longer with us because of funding,
Right.
and that was really really hard on us.
Yeah.
So the whole point of Tay Radio is to amplify youth voices, and one of them is not shying off the arts part, whether it's audio. Like I'm heavy and it's audio. I never understood a lot of the audio stuff.
Yeah.
He came in and he said all of these stuff. I'm like, okay, makes sense. So this is the platform of Tay Radio is to highlight the youth and their voices.
Yeah.
And so like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you know anyone who can support the show
Yeah.
or can help. We really don't want to end Tay Radio.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to work a lot on finding funding, because that's the only way we can survive.
Yeah.
Right. But
there's not many Tay Radios. Y'all are really doing something that, that not only deserves to be around, but needs to be around.
yeah,
And especially with the 2025 that's about to start on Monday, when
when things
who gets
change.
inaugurated.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it whatever, but we're going into a really weird time, and no one, I think the wrong voices have been speaking to youth since that person got elected in 2016,
Yeah.
and it's all you have the manosphere. I'm not going to get into it that much, but it's people like you two who speak to youth in. Kim, all you guys who are the right voices to speak to youth, and it really gets to me sometimes that the right voices to speak to youth are the ones that aren't highlighted. So anytime that I can, hopefully, the movie hopefully is going to get into a lot of festivals and it's going to be hot, and a lot of people can say, oh, this is the first interview he did regarding the movie. Go to Tay Radio. Oh, there's the link in the live stream. Yeah. So it's we're all in this together, at least in my mind. So I'm always trying to, I really respect what you guys do, and I love what you guys do, because it needs to exist.
And thank you, Devin.
Yeah.
One thing I really did want to mention quickly here, and I've mentioned this on the show multiple times, but I do really respect you and Miguel.
Yeah.
Both have just already come out with films,
Yeah.
and have done so much more than. I don't want to disrespect people who go to film school,
Yeah.
or who dedicate time, because there's definitely been really successful
Of
people
course.
and that's why a lot of people go to film school.
Even Kugler, Bay Area,
Yeah.
Oakland, he went to film school, USC, and then made Fruitvale. So,
But going off of what you were saying about how you feel like in the Bay Area we don't take advantage enough of our surroundings, of our resources that we have here. Because when I was in LA and seeing all the different film workshops that are there, none of this college related stuff, just people. And then, of course, all the films that are filmed in LA, and it just being the central for Hollywood, obviously a lot of people gravitate towards there because
Just
of
naturally,
that. Just naturally,
subconsciously,
right.
yeah.
But we in the Bay Area have just as many resources as they do. I just don't see enough people taking advantage of it other than you guys,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have been doing such a great job. That's the other thing that I've really been enjoying about being able to support your guys' film, is that it's all local Marin County stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a whole other thing, is Marin County is such a weird part of the Bay Area.
It's so weird.
That it's just so refreshing and always awesome to just see whatever art comes out of here, right?
Yeah.
Because we're also a really small community. Even though I've only really known you guys for about 3 years now.
3 years, 43 years.
3 or 4 years now. I feel like we understand each other so much because we grew up here in
Yeah,
Marin.
it's weird. Santa Fe specifically, but it's people watch our movies and that people Marin is such an upper class, not Marin fully, but Marin's upper class areas are some of the biggest upper class. Tiburon, some of the biggest upper class areas in the country, and it's just fascinating when people watch our movies and they're like, oh, there's Latinos in Marin. There's black people in Marin. You know what I mean? There's Marin City. There's, and it's always so interesting to me. The fact that Larkspur, this hoity-toity area, is across the freeway from Canal. And that's not belittling Canal. I'm saying Canal is such a beautiful cultural place with a lot of history, with a lot of just culture, whether that's whatever kind of culture. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of, if there's one thing I'm proud of in our movies, is we highlight the hidden parts of Marin. The fact that there is crime that happens here. The fact that there are gangs that are here in I'm speaking specifically for Santa Fe, because that's where we're all from. Or me and you and Miguel are from specifically, even though we all kind of live different places. But there is a lot of, there's in the past few years, a very high rise in homelessness in Marin, and all that stuff that, the outsiders looking onto Marin would be like, oh, Marin's just Tiburon and white people, right? You know what I'm saying?
When I talk to people from the East Bay specifically, when I think Bay Area, I think people from the East Bay.
I think East Bay,
they are the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But whenever
Frisco's there too, though. Gentrification out the wazoo,
yeah.
but yeah.
But when I talk with people from the East Bay specifically, they're always telling me you live in Marin? Oh, so you're living that nice life over there, right? Because it's all rich people and stuff. I'm like, no,
you guys don't know what Canal is or Marin
you guys
City
don't know Canal. You guys don't know Marin City.
Yeah.
You guys don't know the half of it.
Yeah,
really.
even Novato, there's parts of Novato where there's a lot of homeless areas that are just increasing, and it's one of those things that it's not highlighted again, because you see an area from the outside and you think, this one thing. And it's, Marin is not, even though it has a lot of white people and a lot of rich white people, it's not a typical suburb as compared to other like middle America suburbs. It's really not, because you have so many Latin immigrants. No, you're good. Because you have so many Latin immigrants in Canal, and, black people that were, kind of redlined into Marin City and history there. And it's not highlighted, but yeah.
Sometimes art is. Thank you guys for sharing.
Yeah.
I was trying.
No,
I thought came into
no, you're good. I'm famous for that.
I think, or I'm curious to know if, how do I phrase this? I'm pretty sure that a lot of people associate art with like a high class activity or thing. It's like if you have extra money, you can work on it, or if you're solid in your income, that you can work on films. Because whenever I talk to people, they don't have the greatest thing about, oh, you make films or you take photos, you make good money. It's kind of put like a hobby type that you can
definitely, yeah.
See what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's because people. That's what I said. I'm curious to know if it's because people think that you are doing so well that you have time to do these little things.
Yeah.
And the reason
That's
why
interesting.
the reason why I bring that up is because I'm currently working on another project. I'm not going to announce it, but I've done a little bit of research, and my partner who's helping me with this project, she talked about data hurting you. And I found that really interesting when she talked about that. And I said, what do you mean? And she explained how that if you look at the data, you will see that, yes, so many people make super good living here in Marin County specifically. And she talked about data hurting you because you can see all of that, but there's this little minority or this gap between poor and middle class in the Canal, in Santa Fe, in South Toledo, in all
Nevada,
in Nevada, Fairfax, everywhere. There is those people. There are there, but when people like who provide funding, they look at the data, they say, oh, you guys are doing very well. Like those people probably, like, they're just a few. But which is why I'm curious to know if that's why we don't have a lot of funding when it comes to art here.
Yeah.
Because
I would think so.
Because it's like that.
That's interesting.
That data hurting you.
Yeah. I think if we're talking about Marin, definitely. I think also the other thing about Marin is, and this is just me keeping it 100, as someone who, my grandparents have lived in Mill Valley since the 70s. I mean, they're these like just super social, like just loving people who, damn near hippies back in the day. Like just, so I've always been around older white people, but like cool older white people, like cool older white people who have,
get it.
Like just get, they're just dope.
Yeah.
So I say that to say of like, I've also had, I'm sure you've had living in Marin, Miguel, all of us, we're all minorities. We've grown up in Marin. And even though there are a lot of minorities in Marin, the most you typically see a lot of older white people, especially in areas like Larkspur, especially areas like Corte Madera. I mean, Corte Madera has those, and Mill Valley, but Corte Madera has those two beautiful, mall, town center, and the village. And you go in there, it's like you wouldn't even know that there's black people in Marin or whatever.
Right.
And it's interesting. I think as much as it's that too, I think a lot of it's just a level of inherent entitlement and purposeful, maybe subconscious, but also like trying to separate those groups as far as from the people. So like the data does do that, but I also like see that where people, like one of the best examples of that, I don't know if you heard about this because you went to SR, but when I was in SR right before COVID, because I was a junior when COVID happened, not to like bring up any bad memories if anyone's watching this from the broadcast, but we had like the broadcast show and they did a story where they were like, how dangerous is Canal?
I heard about that.
And it was one of the most disconnected white things I've ever seen. I'm half white, so I can say that. It was one of the most disconnected things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And even if there was good intention behind it, it was just like, okay, you guys really don't understand what this culture is. You don't, I played soccer at Pickawee when I was a kid. Like, if you get it, you get it. If you know, you know. And I was just like in high school, and I was like, whoa, these little white kids and their parents who are in this, they do not get it.
What I remember hearing about that was that they were. It almost felt like they were looking at Canal like a zoo.
No, well, literally, it's like the same way that if you're, you bring someone from out of town to San Francisco who's from like a rich area and they go past a Tenderloin and they're like looking at it, they're like, what? Like, it's literally like, hands on the glass at like an aquarium, like, at the, and it's just a cultural difference. But if you're from San Francisco and you've that's always been around you, it's, you understand that those are all people's stories. And my mom's the CEO of Glad Church, she deals with homelessness and drug addiction and mental illness every single day at her job. And And, it's not, nothing is abnormal to her because she understands that these are all humans. I mean, we have homelessness in our family, my sister, a lot of, these are all humans. And I think that in Marin, people always like separate. They're like, oh yeah, it's like there's Marin and then there's Canal and Marin City. Mm-hmm. And Marin City isn't as like much as it used to be, but it still is. You know what I'm saying? Like
the Black community has left.
Yeah, exactly.
Marin City.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure it's like there's Marin and then there's like Canal, which is like scary and dangerous, and then there's Marin City, which is kind of scary and dangerous, but not as much anymore because the Black people were leaving. And if you're in San Rafael every day, like Javi and I were driving around. We went to breakfast one day, and there was we saw so many just different ethnicities around, and it's like I wasn't like, whoa, it's out of the ordinary, but I was also just like taking myself out of it. I'm like, damn, do they not see these people? Do they not want to see these people? Do they not acknowledge that they exist? You know what I mean? Especially, it's so fascinating. Marin is such like an anomaly.
Yeah. I think that to bring it back into film, that's what everything you're describing and seeing, like, I don't see my people, my community, my culture being represented correctly or true. You have the opportunity to create art or find different outlets that can show that what you feel. Like, for other people it might be dangerous and scary, and you can come and say, hey, this is, yes, that might be happening or is happening, but there's also this part of home, family, community that exists in these areas. And I'm very happy, and I don't know if happy is the correct word, but that there's young artists that are taking advantage of that. Javi, you, Miguel, Jesse, that are taking advantage of that, advantage of that, and really setting a different tone. In the current project that I'm working on, we're looking for archives of the canal, and I literally just came from a meeting, and I asked about the archive. We asked about the archives of canal, and they looked at us and said, what timeline are you looking for? And we said 1900s to early 2000s, and they were like, oh, we don't have a lot. And to me it was like, huh? Because the canal has so much history. Like, the way it is now is not how it used to be. And
even when we were kids too, like it's so different than even like I played soccer at Pickaway Park all the time in indoor soccer at my grandpa's league, and it's like, even when I go to Canal now, like when we were filming a few movies there, I was like, oh, it's very it's weird to say gentrification in a place as white as Marin, but that stuff does still happen, and things like Canal do, cultures do get pushed out because of gentrification. You know what I mean? And Canal's very different now.
Yeah, so I'm like, I was shocked and not shocked at the same time going to there and looking for archives of the canal. But again, bringing it back to it's the opportunity that you have of sharing a little bit of what you feel, what you've experienced, your family, your friends. And that's the beauty about art.
Yeah, I always say, like, if everybody has a story, it could be I always feel like we kind of, Neil deGrasse Tyson's talked about this, about like curiosity and like scientists, about how like scientists are just kids who never were told that curiosity is bad. And I love that analogy of like, this is something I truly believe. Storytelling and art is so ingrained in human. It's not ingrained in artists. It's ingrained, like, cave paintings. Like, art is one of the few things that has been around since the beginning of Homo sapiens, you know what I mean? Like, through every single evolution of, and I always think, like, so many people, like, I remember, not to like just say something that you said in the past, but like in the Streets interview, we were talking about, in the Streets interview, you were talking about like you wanted to tell a story about your family and play your mom and stuff. I remember all that stuff, and and I think it's one of those things where so many people have a story and have that urge, but because of roadblocks and because of what people tell them, or parents putting traditional, you got to go to college, work, whatever, and I always feel like if you have a story and the moment you have that thought in your head that I should tell this story, if you don't act on it, you're missing out on a truly human experience. I'm not saying film, I'm saying with everything. You know what I mean? If you're tapping your foot and you're like starting to get a rhythm, we've all done it. You're tapping your foot, you're starting to get a rhythm, and you're like, oh, this is not, and you like start tapping. I want to play drums. But the moment you're like, oh, drums are too expensive, I can't, I'm going to give up. It's like, damn, it's like,
I would also add on to that, sorry for interrupting you.
No, please.
Doubt. And I think anyone can relate on that.
Absolutely.
In career in at work, it's the self-doubt of what if it doesn't work out, or I don't have time, and what will people think. That is something that stops so many people. Just the idea of other people giving opinions on something that you are doing. And as humans, it's kind of ingrained in us, but you have to train yourself to say, so what? As long as I'm doing this, it's not harming anyone, and I want to do this with passion, and I enjoy it. There's so much goodness that can come out of it, and I can testify that I'm one of those people, and Javi knows this, that I have a really hard time with people giving opinions, and that I have to just accept the fact that it's life. You're always,
that life has opposing sides. There's going to be people that are going
and
to
especially with art, again, because the whole point of art is that as much as it is like, dang, I made this whole thing and they just like didn't like it, or you put, it's important to remember that no one's opinion is wrong. That's the definition of an opinion. It's not a fact. And if I say, this documentary you worked on was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen and made me think about all the happy moments in my life, and another person says, oh, it was a little slow for me, I got bored, neither of us is wrong. And I think it's the moment you realize that a good criticism is the same as a negative criticism, they're just criticism, or I guess good criticism would be a good opinion. But, you know, the moment you realize that an opinion, good or bad, is an opinion, it's no different, that's when you can get past that. And I've heard you talk about that before, and every time I'm talking to you, I'm like, just keep doing what you're doing, because it's like, no, I know, trust me, I know how hard it is. I mean, I wrote a script for 5 years. Like, if that's not dedication to dealing with like scared of being people, you know, dealing with what people think, I don't know what is. And I just say that to say, like, also my mindset is like, we're all gonna die anyway. Why would you not tell your story? We're all living this life. We're all gonna die anyway. And I don't say that to be like, oh, scary. It is scary, but I say that to say that nothing is perfect. Art literally can't be perfect. And I know literally is overused, but I'm saying it in the definition of it. Just do it. It can't be perfect. Nike has the best slogan ever. For real. Just do it. And I know it's overused, but I'm serious. You ask Miguel, like, what advice would you give to young filmmakers? Just do it. If your mom says, go to college, and you say, I don't want to because I want to tell my story, because I want to work hard to get a career in this, and I believe I can if I work hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you're going to have no's. And if your mom doesn't see that, the way to show her is by doing it. Yeah. Like that was one of the, if I could share a short story with my dad, one of the last moments I had with him, I talked to him on the phone. I lost my brother in 2022. I did. Last thing I talked to my brother, like died shot like out of nowhere. Last thing I said to my brother was, last thing I had with my brother was an argument. Last thing I talked to my dad was on the phone 10 minutes before he died. And it was a great conversation, right? So I'm so grateful for that. And one of the things he said was, I'm so proud of you that he's like, I can die. I don't remember the exact quote. I have it written down somewhere, but he's like, I whatever happens right now, because it was like one of those things where it was like, he's probably going to die, but you know, whatever happens right now, I can rest easy knowing that you didn't just say stuff. You put your, you know, actions speak louder than words. You actually did it. Hard. No, I know it did. And I was sitting there like, you know, I put the baby to sleep. My mom and my dad are at the hospital. I'm at the house and I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, you know, I'm not even crying because I'm just so shocked at like the bar he just dropped. I'm like, dang, okay, Pac, like, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like, that hit so hard, because it's like so many people, so many young people have these urges, but either they don't love it enough to actually act on it, or they let those things like self-doubt, worry about opinions, parental roles, or societal boundaries that say they can't do that. I mean, there's even, to take it out of our bubble in America, like think about all the filmmakers in Iran and Iraq who do films on the low that they could go to jail for, and they ship their movies like in secret out of the country to go to film festivals. That's a thing that happens every year, and it's like they're telling their story with art so much to the point of, you know, we're talking about people having bad opinions. They're risking their lives to tell these stories. So I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, when you put it in perspective of like, oh, I'm just worried if like my friend doesn't like this. I'm not like belittling that. I'm not saying that, because that stuff is all real. Those opinions are valid. But sometimes it's important to be like I have an intention behind this. I'm doing something. It doesn't matter what, I did it. The thing is, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, we filmed this movie, the one that we just finished, that we're about to start submitting to festivals. We filmed it for a year and a half, based on a script I wrote a week after my dad died, grieving with my mom, helping my mom raise my little sister, you know, having a job, it's one of those things where it's like there's so many excuses, but if you love something, you'll do it no matter what. And I think if you want this is like speaking to young people, because I know this radio show is for young people a lot of the time, and I know there's a lot of young filmmakers who watch our stuff. And I know I'm only 21, so I'm still young too. I know it's like, it sounds weird, but I'm only 21, and I think it's important to remember, if you want someone to believe in you and they don't, show them either what they're missing out on or make them believe in you. And those are two things that Miguel told a story that's, you know, last show about what his mom said to us that one time, you know, and I think it's one of those things where you have to show, and also show yourself, self-doubt. You got to show yourself that you can do it. Because you're like, so many times it's like not even worried about other people. I'm like, can I even finish? Again, I'm my own editor. I'm like, is this even good anymore? And then, you know, sometimes you have to reach out to Jesse or you or whatever, but sometimes you have to be like, no, it is. It doesn't matter if it's good. You're doing it. Just do it. And I think art is weird. You know, you have to, like, art always comes from a place. Even the so-called bad movies, art, those come from a place. You know what I mean? And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot if you... Steve McQueen, the director, has talked about this. Like, why would you not throw a camera up in the air while it's recording just to see what it looks like? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
just do it.
Just
Don't
do it.
it.
You know what I'm saying? And I love that mentality. And I think even though you can be like stopping at self-doubt, I think this little circle we've built without me and Miguel going to film school, I'm so grateful for it, because all of us have some part of that mentality. And I'm so happy that I've met people who have that mentality, that have similar stories, that have similar interests, and they're all in the Bay Area. So
well, thank you so much, Devin. This has been a really great conversation, and I'm really happy with how things have turned out for all of us, and where things are continuing to go.
The only way is up right now.
Yeah, and this is, like I said, that's the high note I want to end the show on. And as you guys have seen, the show was a little longer, and that's another thing that we wanted to mention, is that we are always experimenting, and we're just trying it out. We're trying to see how it is to have a longer show. And
people watch like 5-hour Joe Rogan podcast about flat Earth. They'll want to watch something that's actually like smart and interesting.
Right. But this just goes to show, like, we have a lot of really exciting things lined up for Tay in 2025. I'm really, really happy that we got to have this conversation with you, Devin, have you as our first guest of the year.
Thank you.
And again, for those who are listening, thank you for supporting us. Thank you to everyone who was tuning in on the live stream today. We really, really, really enjoy and love your support. And we'll continue. And, you know, as I said before, I'm really, really excited to see where this film goes. And I'm crossing my fingers that it gets into a festival. We'll see. And yeah, just overall, thank you all for watching and supporting Tay Radio Marin. As I said before, we're always looking for support as well through money donations. So you could always go to multiculturalmarin.org to donate to Tay Radio, as well as check out the Arabella grant, as well as we were talking about, to continue.
I forgot to mention a very important fact about that grant. It has to be, it's for someone who's 18 years and above.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. That's the only...
All them babies out there. We got to get another grant for y'all.
Yeah. Great. But with that said, this has been Tay Radio Marin. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week with another show. So, yeah.
Thank you, Devin.
Everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the lovely talk. Thank you.
Take care.